Now for the top story. Since Charles Rangel would not come in here, we sent Jesse Waters out to find him.
Congressman.
Yes.
Jesse Waters with the O'Reilly factor. The Zimmerman verdict came in, and you dodged us.
That's just not so, and O'Reilly knows it. I am still waiting for an invitation to get on the show.
Maybe your staff's not keeping you in the loop because
that could very well be.
Emailed you and called you a number of times.
It could very well be that I did not think that his interviews and his program was adding to the peace and harmony that I think our races should be seeking.
You said about the verdict.
I think it's possible if the police had got a black Zimmerman, the question would be whether they would have beat him to death.
Do you think that's adding to the peace and harmony?
Let me make no mistake that there's nobody that would believe that if Martin was white, he would not have been stopped. And if Zimmerman was black, he would have been locked up. Whether or not they would have beaten him before they took him to the police station is subjective. But let me make it clear, Zimmerman was a part of the family in the community down there, and they thought because of Martin complexion that he was not. That's why it's so important that the Attorney General and the Department of Justice, as outsiders, oversight the investigation.
Is that what you're saying, that it wasn't a fair trial?
I am saying that when a local community finds that it has affection for the defendant, fairness is the subjective in the minds of the jury.
Have you spoken out publicly about the black-on-black crime that's wreaking havoc in Chicago?
I certainly have, and it's not just black on black. If you want to determine what are the other factors, one, they're young black people. Two, they're in the most medically underserved, the highest unemployment, the highest poverty, the most that have been addicted to drugs. In other words, if you can find out the worst community that the government has not responded to, I'm afraid that you'll find these crimes against each other. It's people without hope for the future, it's people that don't have education that do these things, and we have to do all we can to eliminate it, not just by taking the guns off the street, but by improving the conditions in that community.
Because right now, I believe 73% of black children are born out of wedlock. It's not the government's fault that that's happening. It's not the white man's fault that that's happening, is it?
Well, I hope you're not saying that the children that are born out of wedlock are born with guns in their hands.
I'm not saying that, but white people have access to guns too, and they're not killing people at the same rate as black teens are.
I don't know why you're bringing up kids born out of wedlock. I want to talk about the Martin case. He was not born out of wedlock. And so I don't see why you would raise that when we're talking about the killing of a young guy in Florida by a fella that was overzealous.
My only point is that young black men are 10 times more likely to commit homicides than whites and Hispanic men combined.
Well, that sounds like an invocation for the Zimmermans of the world to start shooting them down.
Well,
have a great day.
You don't think that Zimmerman's more of a threat to black America than some of the other factors like high school dropout rates, narcotics, and out-of-wedlock births?
I didn't before, but now that I've seen the results of the Zimmerman trial, it could be that if he's thinking like you're thinking, yeah, a lot of young blacks could be shot down just because they're black and suspected to be what you think they are. Have a great day.
Thank you, Congressman.
All right, who knows Jesse Waters? So I don't know. Look, that's just ridiculous. He didn't want to talk about the out of wedlock birth rate.
No, he did not.
I don't want to talk about that.
No, he wanted to bring it back to Zimmerman each time, I kept on trying to talk about that, but he wanted to dodge and deflect, and I can understand why. It's very painful. I mean, if the white community was having trouble like the black community is, you wouldn't want to talk about it. It's incredibly embarrassing.
Well, the other thing is that Congressman Rangel has no track record at all in discouraging that or even inviting a so-called conversation. I hate that word. But he just steers clear of it, and that's why he wouldn't come in here. He was disingenuous up top. He knows we were trying to get him.
Well, exactly, because we asked him point blank, and he said first that you never asked him. Then he said his staff never told him, and then he finally came around and said, well, he's actually seen your program. He didn't like the tone.
Didn't like the tone.
That's why.
Right, yeah.
So the story changed.
So he wasn't telling the truth there. I like Rangel personally. I've known him for a long time. But he's one of many who simply will not get to the heart of the problem. He won't.
No.
And they don't understand, they being the grievance industry, the civil rights industry, that is driving all the offshoots, the unintended consequences of this chaos, is leading to the Zimmerman-Martin situations and all the things.
Right, because if you're a leader in the black community, you can get patronage, power, and a lot of money by exploiting these grievances.
All right, Waters, maybe the congressman will change his mind and kind of come in here. And
we'll see about that.
We'll see him.